All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Roberta Burns. I'm the Environmental Education Specialist for the Kentucky Division for Air Quality.
Hey, I am Ty Martin. I'm an environmental scientist in the Technical Services branch of the Division for Air Quality. This is Anthony Hanley. He is an environmental scientist in our Field Operations branch.
And we are here today at the Lexington Primary Air Monitoring Station, located very appropriately behind the Health Department off of Newtown. And it's appropriate because air quality and human health are very closely connected. So, Ty, what is it that we do here, and why do we do this?
So what we do here, like your name said, is an air monitoring station. We monitor the air. We monitor for 5 different pollutants in the air. And essentially what we're doing is we're trying to see how much of each pollutant's in the air and to see whether or not we're meeting standards that have been set for protection of human health and the environment.
Wonderful. And we have stations like this all over the state, right?
Yeah, we have about 30. There are also some that are operated by the National Park Service and the city of Louisville. We have about 30 of them. They're spread out all over the state in various places.
Right. And my understanding is that the air monitoring is very specifically determined for the locations that are chosen based on like pollution sources or large metropolitan areas. Is that true?
Yeah, so our sites are set up according to some regulations that have been developed. Certain sites and certain pollutants are monitored because of population. You have, certain pollutant. You have X number of people in an area. You need to have a certain number of monitors. Certain ones are set up because of expected high concentrations near like a cluster of sources that emit a lot of pollution, and some of them are also set up just at a site where we expect a large concentration because of a facility, and then some of them are also just set up so we have an idea of what's the air in clean areas.
Right, that's right. We do actually have a couple of stations in Kentucky that are in remote areas where the air is very pristine and as clean as you would expect it to be. But that's so we have something to compare air quality to in more metropolitan areas where there are more sources of air pollution. So in a moment, what we're going to do is take a look at one of these instruments here, and Anthony, and might need your microphone there.
Oh, okay.
Anthony is going to show us a little bit about an instrument. We have the front of it off here. This is a particulate matter instrument. It's going to be pulling through the air and collecting a particular kind of pollutant on it. So Anthony, tell us a little bit more about what we're looking at here.
All right, well, what we have here is a Partisol 2000i, and this particular piece of equipment measures particles in the air that are less than 10 microns in size. Now, these particulates that it's going to sample could be dust particles or droplets that are in the air. This machine can be programmed, so that's what the panel here does, and we can set that to do a specific amount of time that it's going to sample from the air. In particular, what we do is we sample every 6 days for 24 hours. And each sample is actually contained or sampled onto a little filter disc. And that's loaded into the machine right here. And after the sampling period, then it's collected in a sample bag. And that then has parameters that are written down from the time it was sampled, like the air temperature, the barometric pressure. And that gets sent off to a laboratory in California where it's all analyzed.
So I'm curious, the particulate matter, is it all just like little bits of dust, or does it come in other forms?
It could be dust in the air, or actually even liquid droplets.
Oh. So that's why, if it's liquid droplets, why you have to put those filters on ice, right? To
Correct.
Because you don't want those filters to get so warm that the liquid particulate matter evaporates away before it gets weighed, right?
Right.
So I always thought that was fascinating. That's great. And we also sample for, if you want to give your
Sure.
microphone to Ty, Ty's going to go up top in a moment and show us some of the instruments up top. But we also sample for a different kind of particulate matter, and it's called particulate matter 2.5. Now, that just means that it's 2.5 microns across. And I brought a little show and tell here, and we're going to pretend that this swim noodle here is one of the hairs on my head. Really, really thick, blown up, so we can see how thick the hair on my head is when we look at it in a microscope. And the little tiny pinhead that you see here would be particulate matter 2.5. And it is very, very tiny. And you might think that the smaller particles would not be that bad for human health, but it's actually, they're worse because you can breathe them so deeply into your lungs that it can cause lung damage. So we measure for particulate matter 2.5 through a different kind of instrument, and the inlet for that instrument is up on the top of our air monitoring station. And Ty has just climbed up there. So we're going to shift our camera around a little bit so you can see what he's doing up there, and he's going to show you what's up there.
Hi, so you can see that I'm a little bit farther off the ground now. I'm up on the roof of our shelter. I'm going to show you the inlets for these instruments. So all of the instruments that measure the pollutants I mentioned, except for the PM10 sampler, are located inside the shelter. But we got to get the air inside of the shelter to measure that. So what we have are these various inlets up here that take air in. Some of them condition the sample a little bit. Maybe they heat it to remove humidity, or that's typically the big one, is we try to remove humidity. But this is the inlet for the continuous PM2.5 sampler she was talking about. Up until very recently, we used to measure PM2.5 with filters similar to the PM10. The downside of that was there was no immediate feedback. We didn't know how much pollution was in the air until those filters got shipped back and weighed, and that there was a whole period of time that has to happen. So what we did is we got these. And these measure continuously. So we get a live reading of how much particulate matter is in the air. And that's really useful in the case of we have an air pollution incident, fires or something like that. We don't really deal with a lot of fires here, but out west, these things were lit up during fires. We also have inlets for our nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and ozone analyzers, which are all inside the shelter. Anthony's going to give you a little tour inside of the shelter. You're going to learn a little bit more about those instruments in a little bit. Now you notice they're not on the ground. Part of the reason for that is we want to make sure we have airflow all the way around them. So that way, if the wind happens to be blowing from a direction where it's blocked, what it's sampling may not be representative of what's actually in the air. I'm going to kick it back to Roberta.
All right. Thank you, Ty. So now what I want to show you is something that we use that data for, and that is, you may have heard of this because a lot of weather forecasters talk about air quality, especially in the summertime, but the Air Quality Index is a color-coded scale that helps translate all of the numbers, all of the data that we get at these air monitoring stations into something that makes a little bit more sense at a glance. We can look at it and we can understand what it means. So it's basically a scale from green to dark red or purple. And you can look at that, especially if you're somebody like me who has asthma and you like to get outside and exercise, but you don't want to do it on a day if the air quality is really, really bad, just to check ahead of time in case you need to tuck that inhaler in your pocket before you go. So I checked the air quality index today, and anybody can check this online at airnow.gov. It's super easy. You put in your zip code and you'll get an instant reading of the air quality index. And today, no surprise, it's good here in Lexington. So, and it's good across most of the state. So it's wonderful, wonderful day to get outside and be active and enjoy that healthy air quality. So with that, what I would like to do is invite you to come over to our air monitoring shelter because we've got a lot of stuff inside as well. And Anthony is going to tell us a little bit more about those instruments inside. All right,
Ty.
Anthony, what are we looking at here?
Well, Ty showed you up above the inlets that were collecting the air that's being sampled. Well, these are the devices that those inlets are connected to. This one on top here is actually a calibrator that makes sure all of the equipment is operating within the parameters that they're supposed to be. And the one below it here measures the nitrogen oxide. Next one on is the sulfur dioxide. And then down below that is the ozone monitor. And over here to the side is where that continuous PM 2.5 monitor comes in and it's analyzed here.
And the PM 2.5 and ozone, especially here in Lexington, are used to help calculate that air quality index, right, Anthony?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, I'm curious, yeah, I know that you have a computer in there that kind of gets that data and kind of crunches the numbers and helps you see what you're looking at. Have you ever seen any interesting or unusual, like, air quality results at this shelter for any reason?
Definitely. Perfect example of times where that might happen, rush hour during the day when there's more vehicles out traveling around. Another big one that we have to keep an eye on is 4th of July every year. I can show you an example of that here on the computer. So this is the 4th of July last year. And as you can see, that's the time is across the bottom there. And this is around maybe 9 o'clock in the evening. You can see that the values for the particulates in the air just go off the roof there and spike. And then they'll trail off and go down. And you can tell that obviously that was when the fireworks displays were going on in the local area.
Do you ever see that also on, like, I don't know, New Year's Eve maybe?
Same thing.
Around midnight?
Yeah. Anytime that there's any type of extra, fireworks or burning, that's another good example of when the particulates can be high, when something's burning in the environment.
So, Anthony, what did you study in school to prepare you for a job like this?
Well, I got my start with biology and chemistry at Kentucky State University. From there, I went on to actually study entomology at University of Kentucky, where I got my master's there. And then I spent about 10 years in the United States Navy doing public health and preventive medicine work. And while doing that, I got a master's degree in public health. So a lot of what we did, while I was in the Navy, we actually did air sampling for the government while we, anywhere we were stationed, so that we knew the air quality where troops were being deployed. And after that, after I got out of the Navy and I came back here local to Kentucky, I wanted to still stay in public health, and that's how I ended up with the Division for Air Quality.
So a lot of overlap.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I've been surprised too that a lot of our staff, they majored in other things in college, like biology or, environmental science or things that maybe not exactly air quality, but because they learned how science works, it was just a perfect crossover to working for the Division for Air Quality in environmental protection. I think we're going to take another visit to Ty here in just a moment, and Ty's going to tell us a little bit about what he studied in school, and also about a couple of opportunities that are coming up soon, I think, that will be listed as job opportunities.
Yeah, so like Anthony, I went to school and studied. I went to the Western Kentucky University. There I majored actually in geography with an emphasis on meteorology and climatology. I took some environmental science courses. I minored in mathematics and took a lot of physics courses because I was originally going into atmospheric science. I went to the University of Alabama in Huntsville and studied atmospheric science there, and it just really wasn't working out for me mentally and emotionally like I wanted it to. So I came back to Kentucky. I was really interested in still being able to use meteorology, and air quality was very important. People, they asked me actually during my first interview, why do you care about air quality? And I didn't mean them to think I was joking, but the first thing that came out of my mind was because I breathe.
We
And
all breathe, don't we?
It's extremely important. There are every study about air quality will tell you that it is so important to your health, life expectancy, even just quality of life.
Yes.
And so the opportunity came open, and I went, no, you know what? I'm going to work in air quality. So I worked for the regulation development branch or section for a couple of years before the opportunity to move into the technical services branch came in. And I'm being of more of the scientific mind, and I want to see how things work, and I wanted to be a doer and not just writing regulations. I wanted to see where the data came from that I was using.
And you get to travel too.
Oh, yes.
And so there's a couple of job openings coming up. Is that true?
Oh yeah. So we actually have 2 openings. I think it's 2 in the quality assurance section. I'm not sure when those are going to be posting, but we've got probably maybe have some college grads or soon to be college grads watching this.
Go to Kentucky Personnel.
Yeah, it should be the personnel cabinet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when the jobs are going to post.
But keep your eyes out for them.
Yeah,
for sure.
and definitely give us a thought. If you're going to have a bachelor's degree in some
Any
sort of
kind
science.
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
if you like math, especially, and if you like math and numbers, I'm very data heavy. So yeah, definitely keep us in mind.
For sure. And I didn't mention this, but I majored in environmental education. You could probably tell. And I'm still doing what I majored in. And that reminds me that next week is Air Quality Awareness Week. And I'm really excited that Ty and Anthony joined me here today to kind of kick this off a couple of days in advance. All week long next week, we're going to be doing social media posts about air quality, how much it's improved over the last 30 years in Kentucky and across the nation. And we're also going to be talking about the connection between air quality and human health. So there'll be some stories about that, because actually May is also Asthma Awareness Month. So there's a really strong crossover there. There's lots of things that each of us individually can do to help our air, and everything from just making sure your tires are properly inflated on your car so it's not having to work so hard to get from here to there, to mowing and refueling after 6 o'clock in the evening when air pollutants from your car and your mower are less likely to combine and form ground level ozone. So lots of tips like that will be coming out on social media next week during Air Quality Awareness Week. But I really want to thank you all for joining us, for coming on this tour. It's not something that we get to do every day, and it's wonderful to have all of our friends exploring air quality with us here at the Lexington Air Quality Air Monitoring Station. Happy Earth Month and happy Air Quality Awareness Week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.